Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brachachana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravana Jayaratha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brachachana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanacharya Tiravanacharya Yamuna Tiravanachari Tiravanachari Jayaratha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Shishi Prahlad Singare Bhagwan ki, Shri Radha Madhava ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai. Omagyanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namo Vistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So welcome back to our seminar on the Madhurya Kadambini. This is part 3 and we'll talk about Bhajana Kriya. So far we spoke on Shraddha, the awakening of faith. We spoke about how there's different types of Shraddha. Some traditional faith, which is believe in something because others also do it. Or forced faith, we become convinced by someone's preaching. But then Shastriya Shraddha, that's what we are looking for. And then we spoke about Sadhu Sangha, association with saints or with devotees. And we spoke about the importance of Sadhu Sangha and different aspects. Someone is like-minded, someone is affectionate and also advanced, then that's what we can call Sadhu Sangha. And also how in Sadhu Sangha we learn how to, we learn Sadachar, we learn how to behave as a Vaishnava, we adopt a certain mood, a service spirit. And then, next, what we discuss today is Bhajana Kriya, which is the practice of devotional service. Once we have faith and once we associate with devotees, we accept those who have given us shelter and shiksha. At some point we accept, and then spiritual master, and then the spiritual master is engaging us in activities, kriya, in spiritual activities, in activities of worship and service of Krishna. And of course then by doing that, anartha nivritti is taking place, the heart gets purified, then nishta is established, one becomes fixed. Taste, attachment, transcendental emotion, and prema will manifest. Now, when we speak of Bhajana Kriya, it's interesting. In some way, when we on that platform, that means we start to perform devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. There's the 9 process of devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu describes 64 items of devotional service. And it's interesting when we see what Prabhupada gave us. Like if we just participated in the morning program of an ISKCON temple, basically we perform most of the 64 items. No? Like, attending Mangal Artik and singing, dancing in front of the Lord, clapping the hands, offering obeisances, or watering Tulsi, hearing Bhagavatam, associating with devotees. This is all there when we simply participate in the program. So Prabhupada very carefully and scientifically gave us a program which will engage us in devotional service. Now, of course, we know that there is different aspects of devotional service. Like pure devotional service actually only starts when we are completely pure. And before that, we are kind of aspiring to become Vaishnavas. We are trying to serve, right? There is the Vaidhi Bhakti and there's Raganuga Bhakti. And there is basically, Rupa Goswami explains, there is Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. 3 kinds of Bhakti. And Sadhana Bhakti, we are trying. And Sadhana Bhakti, there is 2 distinctions. There is Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. Srila Prabhupada gives a beautiful example. He says that mango is mango. There is maybe a green mango, there is a ripe mango. Still it's a mango. So when we perform, we also perform devotional service, but it's unripe. And then when we make more advancement and actually we become purified and we become qualified, then that's ripe mango. That's actual devotional service. So, but on the stage of Bhajana Kriya, obviously this is just we're just starting. That's the unripe stage, and that's why, in some way, Bhajana Kriya means, in one sense, it's in a good sense, an imitation of bhajan. We are imitating. We are trying. We are exercising. It's not actually bhajan. We are trying. You perform something that looks like bhajan, but you're not capable to actually do bhajan, because in our heart there's still so many obstacles. We understand, we got faith, we got sadhusanga, we understand this is what we want to do, and we try, but in the heart there is still so many anarthas, there's still so many other desires. So these obstacles, these forces which pull you in a different direction, so these anarthas that we have are nothing powerful samskaras that tell us to enjoy in a certain way, to have some desire and to be independent. So on the path of bhakti, sadhu, guru, shastra, they tell us we should become dependent, on guru, on Krishna. We should be submissive. We should be humble. But then, in our heart, our previous samskaras, they tell us we should be independent, we should be proud, we should be the best, like the opposite. So therefore, Bhajana Kriya is actually a kind of a war. It's kind of an inner battle that's going on between our lower nature and our, new identification as a sadhaka. We want to be a devotee, we want to practice, but then the lower nature is pulling us back. Therefore, this Bhajana Kriya is like an internal battle. There's 2 forces. I understand because I have firm shraddha, I've developed some faith, and at the same time I see the reality of my heart, which is that there is many, many other desires. So there will be an internal contradiction which we will have to deal with. That's why Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur calls, there is, when we speak of Bhajana Kriya, there is actually, this is also called Anistaita Bhajana Kriya. Anishtita. Yeah, Anishtita. So, I mean, after anartha nivritti, there comes the stage of nishta, right? Nishta means sta, means being stable, being fixed, being strong. And in Sanskrit, if you put an A in front, we know that becomes the opposite. So it basically Anistaita Bhajana Kriya means unsteady. It cannot be, and like our Bhajan on that level cannot be stable. Why? Because we are not stable. No, our heart is still full of material desires, and the mind is crazy. And so how can we have a stable Bhajan? It's not possible. That's why it's called Anistaita Bhajana Kriya. And sometimes we fall prey to these other forces. Then we become established by the mercy of the Vaishnavas again, and then again we fall victim to our lower nature. So in this way, there's always a constant battle going on within our heart. So therefore, it's also described to this battle. Basically, these are stages of instability. Each stage of instability is a particular mixture of these two: previous tendency and the desire for spiritual practice. There's always this pulling of forces. We want, but we can't. We're not able. No. And Srila Vishnu Thakur describes 6 stages of instability. And these 6 are basically all different forms of weakness or signs of immaturity. All of these are signs of immaturity. And once we go through them, I'm sure you will have will sound familiar, or you have some realizations, because usually that's where we stand. So this is what we find in the book itself, Madhurya Kadambini. It says here, next comes Bhajana Kriya. He begins to practice different types of devotional activities. This also is of 2 types: unsteady, anishtita, and steady, nishtita. 6 different stages mark the progression of unsteady devotional service. So it's 6 kind, it's also kind of a progression. It starts with false confidence, utsaha mai, sporadic endeavor, ganatarala, indecision, vyuda vikalpa, struggle with the senses, vishaya sangara, inability to uphold vows, niyama kshama, and enjoying the facilities offered by bhakti taranga rangini. So these are 6 symptoms of instability. And basically in this session we will go through all of them step by step. I also have for every stage I have some questions, some reflection. We can do a little bit interactive. So hopefully we can reflect a little bit. How does it refer to my own life? Like that. Does this sound like a good idea? Yes, okay. So we go step by step. We will. So the first one is Utsamai, puffed up with enthusiasm. Haribol! We all have seen the young bhaktas and bhaktins. Conquer the world! We will spread Krishna consciousness. I like this picture. It's like starting very senkrecht starter. So, and this is quite natural. Like whenever we start something new, upon taking any new and exciting endeavor, one feels enthused by the prospect of enhancing their life. You know, like whenever we start something new, then we find we become very enthusiastic. I mean, let's take just a material example. Someone, for example, wants to increase his health or his fitness. He wants to lose some weight. So he'll maybe join the gym, buy some instructional videos or watch some YouTube videos, get some books, some power shakes and meals, or maybe even spend some thousands of dollars for a new latest home exercise equipment, you know, like, and then he starts exercising every day. And then so then in the beginning he's very enthusiastic, and after a couple of weeks, the machine is just sitting there. Like I mean, I can speak from my own example. I, at some point, I got some donation, and then I thought I should invest it in something good, so I got a cross trainer, because I still have back pain issues, and I should do something for my health. So I got this cross trainer because I did some therapy, and there some medical therapy in a hospital. So I had to always do this cross training and different exercises. But then I didn't do the training. I thought if I have one in my home or like in a temple in my room, I can do the exercise whenever I need. And today it's basically a wardrobe where I hang my kurtas and pullovers. I mean, sometimes I use it, but rarely. So always when we start an endeavor, we are very fired up, and then we have a lot of ideas, and then But then after some time, okay. So it's one also in devotional service, one begins, and then we are accustomed to speedy results based on our life experience, because nowadays everything is instant. Like you need something, you just put some button on a computer, and then the next day you get a parcel from Amazon. Everything is instant. Everything get very quickly. So then we come to spiritual life. We are very enthusiastic, and then we also think now everything goes very fast. No, it's only a matter of a couple of weeks, and I will be a pure devotee of the Lord. Like when my spiritual journey started, I was of that kind of, like sometimes I got up in the morning. I mean, before I joined the ashram, but like at home, I was kind of doing all kind of so-called spiritual things. So I got up in the morning like, wow, and I will, maybe 2-3 more weeks I will be enlightened. Like at that kind of spirit. So Srila Vishnu Thakur, the problem is usually we have some ideal, some high ideal, and then we realize or we understand, and then we identify ourselves as if we already have achieved that goal, without realizing that there is a long path in between. One thing is to realize the goal and understand what's the goal, and then where we are, but there is a journey in between. But the immaturity makes us think that we already have reached it. And Srila Vishnu Thakur describes this as follows. A Brahmana child, having just begun study of the scriptures, thinks he has immediately become a learned scholar worthy of everyone's praise. Similarly, a person just beginning devotional service might have the audacity to think that he has mastered everything. This is called utsamhai, or filled or puffed up with enthusiasm. So yeah, we've been around for some time, we know a little bit, and then immediately we think, now I know everything. So it's kind of a false confidence. So that's kind of, while fueling initial devotional activity, of course in one way it's very positive, we are enthusiastic, and that's good, but it also fosters unrealistic expectation, and one does not comprehend the full import of cleansing the heart, of millions of lifetimes of accumulated mental impression and anartha and everything. We don't really grasp that there maybe it takes some time, So one is bubbling of enthusiasm. And also, of course, usually one wants to convert the whole world. And then usually we start with our family members, which mostly ends into some conflicts. Because the father and mother, they don't like to be taught by their own son, right, or the daughter. So it's interesting, His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami analyzes these 6 stages and gives some deeper insights, which we don't find in the original work, but he kind of, just, analyzes and gives some hints, some ideas. So he makes a point that this first stage looks very good. One is enthusiastic, one follows strictly, looks very strong as a devotee, but actually it's a period of weakness. It looks strong, enthusiastic, but actually it's a symptom of weakness. Deeply hidden internal weakness. Weakness which he does not only try to hide from others, but also from himself as well. So he has faith, and he wants to become like Dhruva or like Prahlad, or he wants to become a great devotee. At the same time, he also understands unconsciously maybe that he has so many other desires. So he tries to hide the desires by pretending to be very enthusiastic, very strict. So in some way it's natural, but actually it's not true enthusiasm. It's basically a fanatical enthusiasm. One becomes a fanatic from the very beginning, and that's very rarely an avoidable stage. Usually everyone goes through that, mostly. Everyone was a bit fanatic in the beginning. That's like almost for everyone. So these 6 stages of weakness are signs of immaturity in devotional service, immaturity of our spiritual ego. Because the process of devotional service is the process of maturation of our ego, ego as servant. Now we understand, ego is not something wrong. The false ego is something we want to give up. The false ego of thinking that I'm the body and I'm the enjoyer, I'm the controller, that needs to be given up. But the ego identification and the whole process of spiritual life is basically developing that proper understanding that I am a servant. But on that early stage, one is not able to really have that understanding. So when somebody has an immature ego, he has difficulty entering in a meaningful relationship with other people. Because with a mature ego, as a servant, it's easy. Because you're full of service attitude. That's why do we have conflicts amongst devotees? If everyone has an attitude of I'm a servant and is very humble and there is no ego, there is no conflict. Conflict is because the egos, they clash. So therefore these 6 steps of the stages is also a very problematic stage with other people and other devotees, because and of course if you have a society with many, and that in ISKCON is a preaching mission. It's a very big society. You get many people, and then you always get newcomers all the time. That also means you all the time have kanishta adhikaris. That means you have immature people, and then there is always some conflict. That's just how it is. So that's the reason. And then so we have a real belief. We actually have some faith, but we have very little spiritual experience, and we have very little happiness from real devotion because we have not yet access to it. So then we try to compensate by external activities and think we have manifested ourselves as fixed devotees. So basically, it's a weakness. We are not yet so deep. We don't have an access to deep spiritual experiences. And then we kind of make a show, or we make it up with some external activities. And so that's the conclusion here on this. Maharaj calls this a battle of pride. We want to be a pure devotee, and therefore we are hiding our weakness behind enthusiasm. That's the stage of puffed up enthusiasm. Quite interesting, no? Any questions or comments on that first stage from your side? Yes.
We were spoken now like about the problems, and then I thought, what is then the right behavior in this situation?
Well, to be enthusiastic is good, and it's also natural. We want to be enthusiastic, especially when we discover Krishna consciousness. We are so happy. Well, humility would be the antidote here, and to remain grounded and to be introspective and honest, And if we have good association, that's important. If we have seniors around us, people we can express, exchange, open our hearts, then it's always easier. And it's also, if you have a lot of senior devotees around you and good examples, it's easy to remain humble. If you're surrounded only with young people, then you start to think, oh, I'm 3 weeks longer in the movement, so I'm senior to him, and I'm much better than that person. But also depending on to whom do you compare with. So, yeah, some thoughts. All right, otherwise I have the first exercise. There is a question. Have you ever started something in Krishna consciousness with lots of enthusiasm and then realized your motivation was mixed with pride? Or mixed with something else, but there was some other motivation. So that's just there's always a question to reflect, and then there is an exercise. Turn to your neighbor and share one short story of when your early enthusiasm later humbled you. You were first super enthusiastic, and then later on said, no, okay. Anyway, you can if you can think of something good. If you don't find something, then you can anyway discuss about the principle in general. So please take a couple of minutes and turn to some of your neighbors. You can have also 3 groups. 3, yeah. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you. I hope you had some interesting. Anyone had any realization like to share? Yes, Bhajan.
When around 23 years back, in Mumbai, 3 friends joined ISKCON Juhu, and 3 of us were initiated in Mayavadi land before. So we thought we knew everything. Then we came to ISKCON. It took us 8 months to understand Krishna consciousness. And when we understood, we started chanting. From the day one, we started chanting 16 rounds. So it was not even proper 1 year for us in the Krishna consciousness movement. But we, in Mumbai, there used to be a stall, spiritual question stall. If you know, there will be list of questionnaires, and that were put for the public. People used to come to your stall and they used to answer a few questions, and you have to correct them. So we 3 were Trimurti. Our name was given with Trimurti, 3 people together, and we used to smash everyone. Our attitude was different. We used to smash everyone. We were thinking that we know everything now. That we are coming from a different line. Additionally, now we are here. So we got to know here also. So we are scholars. And just like that example of that Brahmana.
Brahman boy are fitting very well, huh?
And we started assuming that we are scholars. And we started, instead of convincing people, we started smashing them.
Yeah.
But then gradually we realized that bhakti is something else.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. It's not about smashing people; it's about uplifting and showing compassion. Like bhakti is a bit different, different line. Yeah. Thank you for the example. Yeah. All right. So these were some reflections on uttamai. Filled and puffed up with enthusiasm, which is the first stage of an unsteady devotion. So then we go to the next. Gana Tarala, sporadic endeavor. Actually, Gana Tarala means thick and thin. Sometimes our practice is Gana, very dense, thick. And other times it's tarala, it's thin. And with all the expectations of immediate spiritual fulfillment not being realized, then the mind, the enthusiasm goes down. Initially we have this enthusiasm, but then we realize I'm not able to always, be so fixed up. Basically, the two extreme means that. And we can see that in all our activities, like sometimes we are enthusiastic and the next day we are not. Like sometimes when we read Shastra, we read and we find, wow, Prabhupada is so amazing. We make many notes and we feel so nourished by the study. And the next day we study and we fall asleep and like, oh, can't I do something else? Like we take the handy and flip through some YouTube videos. And then chanting in the morning, we chant. One day we chant, and you have water, you have tears. I mean, maybe not every day, but sometimes I'm sure we all have the experience. Some special, some chopper retreat, or we go to the holy place in a special situation. We chant the holy name, and somehow we are touched, and we chant, and tears. We feel like, wow, this is the real holy name. And the next morning, as if nothing happened, the next morning we feel like, oh my God, I can't concentrate at all. The mind is completely going crazy. And also hearing lectures, sometimes, we listen lectures and we feel nourished and we are, very attentive. The next day, we feel bored, and when it's time for breakfast, So in this way, confirmed. So in this way, it's very unsteady. It's coming and going. So Anistaita Bhajana Kriya is sometimes thick and productive Gana, and sometimes thin, wavering Tarala. Hence this stage is called Gana Tarala. This is what we get from Madhurya Kadambini. A pupil may be diligently engaged in his studies, and yet, at other times, because of inability to understand the subject matter, and because of lack of real taste, becomes totally negligent. In the same way, a new devotee sometimes practices the different activities of devotional service attentively and sometimes neglects them. Being sometimes assiduous and at other times negligent, his sporadic endeavor is called Gana Tarala. So it's condensed, dilute. So these two extremes. That's why we put the picture of water and fire, like two extremes, two different opposites. And also here, a deeper understanding is that because we are not able to actually go deep enough, then our practice remains a bit superficial and it actually becomes dry and there is no satisfaction. We're not going very deep. Then sometimes we feel something, sometimes we're not. And then we become conditioned by praises of other devotees. If they praise you, you distribute so many books, then you become enthusiastic. And if no praise is there, then become neglectful. So you depend on the externals. And here we have very ecstatic kirtan. Bhaktivedanta Goswami gives the example. He remembers when the first group of Russian devotees came to India in 1989. Maharaj remembers there was one, they did, in Mayapur, the whole group, they were doing a lot of kirtan around Mayapur. And there was one devotee, he was very enthusiastic. When he would lead kirtan, he would inspire everyone. He would beat the mridanga, sing loud and smile, and he was like beaming, and everyone else was impressed by his presence and charisma in chanting. But as soon the next person would lead, he would look very morose. So basically, he was dependent on attention. If he was in the center, if he would lead, then he was enthusiastic because everyone gives attention. But if someone else was given attention, he was like. So that means there is a lack of a deep taste in the holy name, a lack of appreciation or understanding. It's just about my performance. If I'm in the center, then it's good. If not, so that's where we are dependent on praise by others because we are stuck in mechanical, dry practice and therefore have no true satisfaction. Mechanical practice is very dangerous if we just get stuck in, just doing the rituals every day. Sangsara dhava natalila loka. Namaste, brindai tulasi deva. We just go along. We drag ourselves through the program just because we have to do it. So therefore, it's very important that we always try to remember the deeper meaning. That's why it's important to understand the songs. What is the meaning of Sangsara Dava? And while we sing, we remember Srila Prabhupada, we remember our spiritual master. And when we offer Nrsimha prayer, we pray, please Nrsimhadev, please destroy the demons in my heart. And Tulsi Devi, I'm praying that I may find entrance to Vrindavan. It's such a deep song. But how often do we actually think about the meaning of the song while we sing? So that's necessary to go deeper, so that otherwise there is a danger that we do things mechanically and we don't have real taste, and then we start to be dependent on external things. Yeah. And then no surprise. Sometimes we are doing well and sometimes we are not doing well because it's still unsteady. Yeah. Any comments or question on this stage? Yes.
Could it be that? Sorry, my own space. is it sometimes it's a fine line between doing the basics when you're new to keep some sort of steadiness or some sort of, one can say repetition, and then also then doing it mechanically,
Yeah.
right? Like, because the new wave of devotees I noticed in the last few years, I'm like, but I don't feel like doing it, so I won't do anything, So it's like we went from Prabhu smashing the head, the pride, we smash, from this generation, which worked to a certain degree, to like, okay, what do you feel like doing?
So you're saying that doing something mechanically in the beginning might be also necessary, just to be, like, in a sense, not mechanical, but in the sense of doing something regularly, steadily, like that.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure. It's a
Yeah.
question mark. I'm not sure because
No, sure. Because I mean, discipline is required, and that we, and sometimes we have to. Basically, that's Vaidhi Bhakti that Prabhupada explains. We go to the Mangalarti not because we like it, but because we are told. No, the temple commander tells us, if you don't go to Mangalarti, there's no breakfast for you. Some temples have that policy, like if you miss Mangalarti, no breakfast. It works. And then on a spontaneous platform, of course, you hardly can't sleep. You get up without an alarm clock, and you. I want to see Radha Krishna. I want to see Prahlad Nrsimha. I want to, where is the Lord? You get up because you want. You can't tolerate being not with the Lord. You're running down to the temple room to have darshan. That's spontaneous. And yeah, it's true that in the beginning we don't have that spontaneous. So therefore we need discipline, and then we follow the rules, the regulations given by the authorities, by the guru, and that's also needed. Yes.
at one moment we need to break out of it somehow. It feels,
Yeah, or just go deeper, like in a sense of understand the deeper meaning of it. Yeah, to make sense. And of course, the beauty is that these activities are so beautiful, and it's a spiritual practice. So at some point we get a taste, and it becomes more natural, right? So we have also some reflection here. When was the last time you felt very inspired in your sadhana, and when did you feel little or no taste? Was it this morning? How was your experience this morning? Did you feel enthusiastic in this morning's Mangalarti, or did you felt a bit? I mean, we had Maharaj leading the Guru Puja Kirtan. This was quite fired up. If you don't feel enthusiastic with that, then you have a serious problem. So, the exercise is write down one or two things that help you strengthen your practice when it feels thin darala, in a sense. What are you doing if you don't feel like, so enthusiastic, when you don't feel like? If you like, you can write down something. If you like, you can also just think, and then again, exchange with a partner. Just exchange. What are you doing if you're down? If spiritual life's sort of sadhana feels like torture, what is your what are you doing? Yeah, you can share some tips. Okay, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I'm sure you could have more discussion, but just go on. We have 4 more to go. So yeah, I think that's quite, that's clear. So the next one is Vyuda Vikalpa, indecision, broad range of possibilities, which direction to go. And why this is an obstacle? It is another sign of instability, because if I'm not able to make decision, this is really it's very difficult for the mind to deal with. You're not properly situated, and that becomes a reason for not being stable. So it means choosing between different possibilities. You see the different possibilities, but you do not know what to choose. So having developed enough steady practice, one is confronted with the next stage of mental agitation. So there's a lot of doubts and wild speculation in the mind in regards to one's lifestyle or service. Like it's always, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, right? So that's why the sadhakas has all the different options and doesn't know where to go. That makes him unsteady. And Srila Vishnavacharya Thakur takes the example of the ashram. Shall I just be a householder happy in family life, making my wife and children devotees and worship the Lord, or should I give all that up and go and sit in a place of meditation in Vrindavan, become successfully by engaging full-time in hearing and chanting with no distractions? What should I do? White, saffron, white, saffron. Sometimes people change back and forth, and for every brahmachari, that's the huge topic. Like, oh, can I do it? Can I do it for the rest of my life? Then, I guess for brahmacharinis also sometimes, like, should I? Huh? Yeah, there's maybe less pressure. Yeah. And often ladies feel more naturally drawn to also, like just natural to have kids or family. But sometimes the men are a bit more stubborn, although most men also get married at the end of the day. But they're more stubborn, like, oh, I should try it. And it's interesting, although one understands Shastra, it's not so much about not understanding Shastra, it's more about my personal decision. What is good for me? What is best for me? And of course, this could be applied to anything, like to my business, how should I earn my money, or to service, what service should I do, anything. But Vishnavacharya Thakur just gives the example of ashram. And he goes quite into detail. I will just read, not everything, because it's quite lengthy. Some points he gives just a hint, and with other points he elaborates a lot, and that's certainly the case with this point here. So then he reflects: should I stay with my wife and children and just make them Krishna conscious, or should I go to Vrindavan? Right? Then there's a whole discussion or internal dialogue. Then he quotes shlokas, Bhagavatam 3:31-40. Association with women is the way to death, like a blind well covered by grass. Those attachments, that's 5:14-43, those attachments that are very difficult to give up, beautiful wife, obedient son, devoted friends, vast empire, everything, the heart desire, Maharaj Bharat gave them up like stool, even in his youth, due to his attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like strong shastric evidence. Like if you go to the bathroom, if you flush the toilet, you don't feel like, oh my God, I lost something. No, you just flush and walk out. There's no there's no attachment to it. And the Bhagavatam described that was the way how Bharat left what was most dear. like family, wife, children, kingdom, position, which is so dear to everyone, and certainly was dear to Bharat, but he just left it without any attachment. He was so detached. So these kind of shlokas. Should I thus give up unreliable family life while still young? On the other hand, it's not proper to renounce immediately. Shouldn't I wait till till the death of my old parents before I renouncing? And then Bhagavatam 11, another shlokas. Alas, my parents are old, and my wife is with a mere infant in her arms, and other young children. Without me, they will have no protection and will suffer unbearably. How will they live without me? Besides this, if one gives up family life in an unsatisfied state, his mind will constantly dwell on family life, even after renunciation. Again, Bhagavatam 11, 1758. Being unsatisfied and always thinking of his family members, he dies and enters the darkness of ignorance. So by such statements, he's trying to understand which direction, white or orange. And thus, he becomes very unsteady, Anistaita, very unsteady. And interesting enough, what is the deeper cause behind it, or what is the weakness? We said all these stages of unsteadiness, they're all signs of weaknesses. And what is the weakness behind this one? What would you say? Not being able to make decisions? Attachments, yes. Weak intelligence. Well, he quotes Shastra, it's quite intelligent. There is good reasons to stay with the family, very good reasons. There is also reasons to leave the family. No faith in Krishna. Okay, for the spiritual soul, that actually is not so much of a concern. I mean, it's all valid what you say, but there is a battle of avoiding responsibility. Taking responsibilities, it's in order to mature in life, one has to accept responsibility, and sometimes we avoid decision because we are not ready to take responsibility. As soon as you take a decision, then you also have responsibility. And if you're kind of not taking the decision, then you're kind of in that space in between. There is Srila Prabhupada makes a statement. Prabhupada says, some of our students immediately get married, and then shortly after they ask me, please give me sannyas. What is this? No responsibility. I mean, if you enter Grihastha ashram, that's serious. You have a commitment. You take care of your wife, of your children. That's for life. I mean, at least for the next 20, 25 years or so, you have a serious commitment. But then sometimes devotees, like I remember, like 3 years ago, I was in Govardhan Eco Village for an Ayurvedic clinic, and then I met a devotee in the waiting hall, and then he somehow he knew me, and then can I talk to you? And he revealed his heart, I just got married, like a couple of months ago, but when I see you, I think maybe I should also renounce, I always wanted to be a brahmachari and maybe take sannyas at some point. And I looked at him, you told me you just got married, Yes, but like, and I remembered that statement. It's a lack of taking responsibility. That's an issue. Reflection. Do you sometimes wonder, should I do more sadhana or more service? Should I focus on quality or quantity? How does, and there could be many other examples, but how does indecision affect your energy? If you can't take a decision, if you're not clear about things, usually the mind is very flickering and you're not grounded, right? Each one shares one area of indecision they have experienced, I mean, without going too personal if you don't want, and the partner just listens without solving, only to see that such dilemmas are common. I mean, maybe we skip that one, we have more, but if you want to do the exercise on your own, you can take a note. Yeah, but I think without the exercise we can realize we all have such areas in life. We find it hard to make a decision. And then we can reflect, okay, maybe it has something to do with taking responsibility and go further, move on. Any questions to the point, Vyuda Vikalpa? Yes.
I have the questions about decisions, because you said that we have to take our own decisions, and then I was thinking, so if I took shelter by Gurudev, then it means that decision should be from Gurudev.
Yes.
And I should follow his instructions.
Yes. So sometimes we try to avoid the responsibility and we flip-flop between different things. So yes, we should take guidance from Guru in regard to such changes in ashram and service. Certainly, yeah. That's what we can take shelter and get help from. Like also service usually service is something that is given. No, the authorities give us service and then we are engaged in that. And ashram, although there is I think there is maybe you can help me whether there's a shastric statement that Guru gives you instruction and you should always follow the instruction of Guru, but there is one instruction you don't have to follow. That's about ashram, you know. If the Guru tells you have to get married, that's an instruction you can say, no, I don't want. I don't know, I heard that, you know, when it comes to ashram, there is, but yeah, if you want to be safe, you better follow Guru's instruction anyway. Because sometimes Guru sees, you know, like that actually, you know, that brahmachari, he should have changed the ashram already 5 years ago. So then maybe we should listen to Guru's instruction. But yeah, getting advice, I mean, that's why we should have seniors, mentors, getting and our spiritual master getting advice that can help to make decisions, certainly. In my own life also, when they requested me to take up that service I'm doing now, I was really not sure whether I should accept. You know, for quite a long time I was kind of in this Vyuda Vikalpa, should I do it, should I not do it? And I took advice from senior devotees, from Shiksha Gurus, from astrologer. I checked I checked Jyotish. Do I have some leadership qualities? Is it my nature or not? And so, and it helped me. It helped me. Of course, at the end of the day, we have responsibility for our own life. We may have to make our decisions, but it was certainly very helpful to get advice. And also, one point, what one of my Shiksha Guru told me, you should do it. There was a clear instruction, and that kind of, at the end of the day, we want to please the spiritual master. Okay, next one. 4. Vishaya Sangara, battle with the senses. So this is quite clear. This is an ongoing battle with his previous acquired desire for sense pleasure, in which he sometimes victorious and sometimes defeated, is called Vishaya Sagara, or war with sense pleasure. Sounds familiar? Yeah? Then there is this, you already got, it's evening, you already ate full dinner, but then comes the devotee, hey, Prabhu, there is some cake also, and it looks really tasty. And you take one cake, and then it comes, you want to have a second one, and a third one, and then your intelligence tells you, no, don't take a third cake. It's too much already, and it's getting late, and tomorrow is Mangal Arti, but you just have to take another piece of cake. It looks so good. So you fall victim, and another day, no sweet rice, no sweet rice. I'm a brahmachari, I'm not taking too much sweets. So one day you feel strong and you're able to resist, and the other day you just, can't resist. And of course, sweets, this is a innocent example. There is other temptations we sometimes fall victim. And of course, this is the nature of this world. If you're embodied in a material body, then the senses are always very strong. There is the eyes, they want to see. There's an urge to see beauty, and the ears, they want to listen something nice, and the tongue wants to taste. The hands want to touch something soft. And I remember His Holiness Kadambini Maharaj was one of the first classes. I was a new Bhakta, was a preaching center. Maharaj spoke on this topic. He says, it's the senses. It's like you're sitting in an office, and there's many phones, and one phone is ringing. The eye, I want to see something beautiful. Okay, I will look. Although I should not look there, but I have to look. Oh yes, beautiful. And then another ring is calling. Oh, I want to taste tongue, And there is one big red, big phone, and this is the urge, sex urge, It's a very strong urge. So yeah, that's our situation, and that's why it's explained. The Shastra gives us this example that the body is like a chariot, and we are like sitting in that chariot, and then the intelligence holds the reins, and the reins is like the mind, and the reins are connected to the horses, and the horses are the senses. So if the senses, if they are controlled through the mind, if the mind is controlled and through the intelligence, then we have a safe journey. But if the horses get wild, then we have a very unpleasant journey, right? And sometimes we are able, to control with the help of the intelligence, and sometimes we are just not able to do it. And Prabhupada gives a beautiful purport. Krishna explains that the yogi is able to withdraw his senses, just like a tortoise. So similarly, a bhakti yogi, he's able to withdraw his senses, and actually he only uses, Prabhupada explains, only uses his senses in Krishna consciousness. And then whenever it's not needed, then the senses are, controlled. But this is a very high platform to always do that, because the mind. Yes, I know I shouldn't look here, especially nowadays with these Satchidananda Maharaj. How Satchidananda Maharaj calls these devices, the distraction devices, or mass distraction advices, and it's true, with a few clicks, you can see all kind of Maya. The whole Maya world is available very easily. So no surprise that sometimes we fall victim. And then there's a beautiful statement from the Vishnu Purana. For persons absorbed in material enjoyment, absorption in Vishnu is most difficult. A person going east cannot catch an object going west. Makes sense, no? If you run in one direction and you want to catch, you can't get the object in the other direction because you're already going this direction. It's a very good example. If you run for sense gratification, if this is your main meditation all the time, you're always thinking about it, you hanker for it, you go for it, how can you perform your devotional service? It's not going together. And of course, this is a major issue, this battle with the senses, and sometimes very, very difficult. And we may question why this should be actually in the beginning, no? Should be because this is such a common problem. But sometimes in the beginning, Krishna gives us some mercy, and we are enthusiastic, and there's some blessing there. But when we go on, then all of a sudden, we realize actually it's not so easy, and the old habits, old desires come up. There is a beautiful, but how do we deal with that? I mean, with the reality, and that's like face it. Also in our movement, we have the 4 regulated principles, right? And to be vegetarian and to skip smoking and not going to casino. I think most of us can do that. But then the illicit sex, controlling that urge becomes very difficult. You have young devotees like 23 years old, get married, living together. I mean, how can they follow that principle? It's difficult. And of course, we preach that, and this is our standard. But in reality, it looks different. Often devotees struggle with that. And so there is a beautiful text found in the 11th canto, where it says, "Having awakened faith in the narration of my glories," Krishna speaking, Uddhava Gita, "being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sense enjoyment, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities." So, in other words, he's sincere, he understands, but out of weakness, sometimes he may slip, sometimes he has a fall down. But then what is Krishna saying? Of course, he sincerely repents. It's not that he thinks, oh, no problem. No, he feels that, oh, this is not good and I should improve, and he tries. But he should not become too depressed and morose. Like in Middle Age Christianity, the monks, they would, whip themselves, beat themselves if they had some difficulties. So this is not what Krishna recommends. No, he says, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Having the trust that bhakti is so powerful that if I just continue with the process, I will get the necessary strength. One day I will make it. And then just continue. Yes, I'm not, now I try my best, but sometimes I'm weak. But I continue. In that faith that if I just continue by the power of bhakti, I will make it. Vishnavacharya Thakur gives a commentary to this same shloka about how the devotee is convinced or has a resolve. Let my attachment for family be destroyed or increased. Let there be millions of obstacles to my worship, or let the obstacles be destroyed. Let me go to hell if I have committed offenses by keeping those desires. But I will not give up bhakti. I will not accept karma or jnana even if Brahma personally comes and orders me. I will not give up bhakti. And that's the attitude which is required, right? It's not that, oh yeah, Krishna says I should be happy and just, be a little bit weak. And no. It requires at the same time the sincerity of being convinced, I will continue and I will become a pure devotee. I will give up. Because he has understand there's no actual taste, there's no actual meaning in that sense gratification. I want to overcome it. That's why I will be sincere and continue. Like that. So although the regulative principles are prescribed at the time of initiation, one may be helpless in the full and immediate incorporation of such principles in a lifestyle. It might sometimes take years to acquire the requisite eligibility, adhikar, to fully control the senses as prescribed by one's spiritual master. That's just reality. And of course, we could say ideally, you only accept initiation once you're already convinced you can follow. That's the And Prabhupada is very strong on that. Like in the disciple course, we have this lesson on initiation vows, and we have the statements of Prabhupada. Prabhupada says, heaven or hell, you have to follow these principles. And he says, rascals, you have promised in front of fire and spiritual master, you don't follow. What is this? You have promised. My disciple have to. And if you don't follow, you can't call yourself my disciple. Very strong. So that's one side. That's why initiation is serious. On the other side, in reality, we may face difficulty to fully implement it because we're just not on that. We don't have the adhikar. Because to be a yogi in completely self-control is a high stage, which a new devotee might not have. It's a process that requires practice, right? So that's the battle with the sense. Reflection: when you struggle with sense desire, do you usually try to fight them directly, or do you try to redirect your mind towards something higher? Perhaps each person shares one healthy way they use to redirect their mind when a strong temptation arises. Okay, we can also maybe just reflect on that on our. We go to the next one because time is there. But yeah, it's an interesting point that we understand param dristva nivartanti. The higher taste is actually our solace, our solution, or that which helps us, that we develop a higher taste. Having a higher taste helps us to overcome lower taste. That's why higher taste is not a luxury that we attain on the platform of ruchi or but we have to have higher taste now. Because if we don't have higher taste now, what we will do? We go for the lower taste. So we need to have some. So every day in our Krishna conscious, like every day we should reflect in the evening, did I had some deep spiritual experience today? At least one moment, whether it was while chanting, whether it was in front of the altar, whether it was in an exchange with a devotee when I read something, but at least, I should be touched in my heart to some degree at least once, Otherwise, what kind of spiritual life do I live? If it's just, I need to have some paramdrishta, some higher taste needs to be there. Otherwise, it will be difficult to continue. Okay, we move on a little faster. We have two more. Niyama akshama, inability to uphold vows. Unfulfilled commitments due to spiritual weakness. So this seems to be similar to what we just discussed. And it is also, but here it's also about, okay, Ekadashi, today's Ekadashi, I chant, 64 rounds. You make vows which are not really realistic, and then you're not able to hold it. That's also an aspect of immaturity. So Madhurya Kadambini, Vishnu Chakravarti says, the devotee may then resolve, from today I will chant such and such number of rounds of japa, I will pay so many obeisances, and I will render service to the devotees. I will not talk on any subject except the Lord, and will give up all association with people who talk about material matters. Though he makes such resolutions every day, he is always unable to execute them. This is called niyama akshama, or inability to uphold his vows. Vishaya Sangara is the inability to give up material activities, whereas niyama akshama is the inability to develop attraction to bhakti. So it's like Krishna consciousness is all about being detached from material life, becoming attached to spiritual life. Detachment from material, attachment to Krishna. And that's basically these two stages, not able to detach from sense and not being able to become attached to Krishna. We try, because doing more chanting, doing more sadhana, that means we developing attachment towards Krishna, but we are not able to do so. So we see Thakur Haridas, he chants 192 rounds. Then I say I can at least chant 92 rounds, not 192, but 92. Even 92 rounds, even 64 rounds is really like, who of you has chanted 64 rounds already in your life? Yeah, most of you. Yeah. Sometimes we have a japa retreat or so, and then we focus. It's a good experience, no? It's a really good experience. But it's not easy. to do that every day. It's like, I mean, we have some devotees who do that every day. It's quite remarkable. So what is the hidden or the part, the weakness here? This stage is hidden rivalry. We want to show that we are better than everyone else. Why do we make unrealistic vows? Because we want to show to the world how advanced we are. And then we're not able to do it, but we just say, you know. And I got a nice meme in this regard. Please enjoy. I meditate extremely well. Nobody meditates better than I do. I have great relationships with some gurus, but I'm actually the most spiritual person around. I guarantee it. Let your Trump chakra flow. I found that that kind of conviction about yourself and your ability that we find in certain personalities. That also sometimes people come to spiritual life and they want to be very spiritual, but actually they bring in their mentality, and no, it's not so spiritual actually. Especially if you have this competition and who is better and who is more paka. So a reflection here could be, what is one spiritual commitment you sometimes struggle to keep? Japa, early rising, diet, like only prasadam, even while traveling. No, we can reflect on that. One personal vow you'd like to strengthen, and then you can also think about what could be practical tips that help you in that endeavor. So these are some reflections on Niyama Akshama, and then the last, and with that we will conclude for today, which is a very interesting one. Taranga Rangini, enjoying the facilities offered by Bhakti. Because Taranga Rangini means this is a wave. The wave of Bhakti we are riding on. Bhakti produces much opportunity for material gain, worship and position. These are weeds around the creeper of Bhakti. Engaging oneself in pleasure seeking, Ranga, amidst these weed-like facilities, which are but small waves, Taranga, in the ocean of Bhakti, is called Taranga Rangini, delighting in material opportunities. This is an interesting one, no? So, before Krishna consciousness, you were an ordinary guy, and then you come to Krishna consciousness, and all of a sudden, you wear saffron and sadhu Maharaj, and people show respect, and then you start to give lecture, and people respect you. Oh, such nice classes, Prabhu. Or you learn to play the mridanga, and then everyone is glorifying you for your playing mridanga. And then you start, and of course, in the beginning, it takes some time, but with time, then you're respected as a senior member, and then so much facility is given, which was not there before, but because you practice bhakti, and because some purification takes place, and you become kind of charismatic, or you get some bhakti shakti, and then people start to respect you, but then you fall into the trap of starting to enjoy these things, which are actually not so relevant. I mean, why do we practice bhakti in the first place? To get prema phala, the fruit of love of God. But then you kind of start to get distracted by other things which you want to enjoy. Like, yes, I'm a brahmana, I'm so senior, and I just took some picture. I'm not indicating that these personalities have some of these anarthas. Disclaimer, but just to give some visual idea, impression. So it could be that we become, we like the facility which is given by being a senior, or by being a brahmana, or as I said, by our artistic ability, playing instruments, or very good cook. Although he looks quite humble. looks like a sweet devotee. But then the whole social media thing, you know, like you become. I also started now a YouTube channel in German though, but you know, I never really liked to do it because I always felt like this is like to present oneself in front of a camera, and there's so much danger of this, you know, becoming trapped by this desire for recognition. How many views? How many people watched my videos? Of course, we use it as a preaching tool. It's very powerful, and we should do it. It's good, but there is a danger in you know, becoming popular and then trying to ride the wave of all these things. So enjoyment on the waves, that is the highest stage of instability. This is the most subtle, you know, like battling with the senses is quite gross, you know, but this is very subtle. This is the most subtle battle which is there in the heart between the desire to serve Krishna and the desire to enjoy. You know. We don't enjoy so grossly, but enjoy subtly. You know. That's pratishta, puja, labha, this desire for being recognized, being worshipped, which is also sometimes described as a subtle kind of sex life. Have you ever enjoyed recognition, respect, or honor in spiritual life, and later realized it was a distraction from the essence? You know, so we could also reflect on that. How did we become distracted by the benefits? So here the overview. These are the 6 symptoms or stages of the Bhajana Kriya, or rather Anistaita Bhajana Kriya, which is the unsteady platform of practicing. Enthusiasm in prideful practice, then this thick and thin experience. Sometimes we are enthusiastic, sometimes not. Then the Vyuddha Vikalpa, that a lot of possibilities, we are not sure how to make decisions. Battle with the senses, unfulfilled commitments, and exploiting bhakti's benedictions. Hare Krishna. So, I don't know how you felt about or feel about this. When I read this the first time, I thought, oh my God, this is all about, how did Vishnava Chakravarti know about my spiritual life so well? You know, this is like amazing. And certainly most of us, we can identify with some of these stages, when not with all of them. We are a little over time. If someone needs to go, please feel free. If someone still has a question or comment, we can maybe take 1 question, 2 questions, and then we end. Question or comment? Yeah.
Sorry, again, it's about the fine line, because sometimes when you're in a place, like whatever, like living in a temple or doing a certain activity, it's natural that people or devotees may come and say something positive.
Yeah.
And in old
Hopefully.
in old school of thinking, it would be like, no, nobody should praise. That just fuels the ego. I'm talking like 20 years back, maybe, right? And then the new part is more, okay, we should try to be a little bit positive with it. An example I had was around, I guess, 15 years ago. I used to play in these big groups, Radharani, in the theatre plays, on Govardhan. And then afterwards, it was, for me, terrible. People would just be like, Radha, Radha, oh, Radha. And, you know, sometimes in the end, I was quite rude, you know, because I was like, of course I'm not, or it's like this.
Yeah.
And I developed a terrible, terrible rash. You know, it looked like, you know, some sort of Third World War disease after. And I remember going to Jagatarini Mataji and telling her of this problem. Like, it's wonderful to play in these roles, but how to deal with this element of people then calling, and naturally the pride could go to that level. And she told me that it's like understanding that whatever happens, you know, when I play this role of Radharani, it's as if I'm carrying a deity form of her. So when the praise comes, I should accept it on her behalf. And in this mentality, then everything is it, because obviously it was not good that I was then very rude to people who were just trying to be positive.
Kind and positive.
Yeah, just I find it
Thank
too.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that example. Beautiful example and very important. I mean, on one side, for us to appreciate devotees and express how we are grateful and appreciative, this is so important, and that's part of a loving exchange that we tell. If we like a kirtan or if we appreciate the service, we can tell it. And on the other side, when we receive honor and respect, there is a way to also we need to also accept, because it can be part of the loving exchange between Vaishnavas. So we also need to learn to accept it. But then, as you nicely explained, in a humble way, understanding that actually it's not me who is in the center, but I'm just an instrument, and like whatever good qualities people see in me, it's actually by the mercy of my spiritual master that I'm able to perform in that way, and I give that appreciation and honor I give towards my spiritual master, right? And so it requires some maturity on both sides, those who give feedback or appreciation and those who receive. And also when we give feedback or appreciation, there is also, we should only do it if we honestly mean it, not just flattering people. Oh Prabhu, you're the best, Prabhu. That kind of, actually that's not a service, it's not helping. And also giving feedbacks, some we say, very nice class. What does nice mean? It's a very, like, be a little bit more specific. Prabhu, I like this class because you gave this example, which seems that you have some realization on that, and that really touched my heart, because I also think, be a little bit specific. And then when people understand, this was an honest feedback and he really meant it like that. So that's something we can also learn when we appreciate devotees, that we are trying to be a little bit personal, detailed, and then devotees can appreciate nicely. But it's just jai. That can also be not so helpful. Yeah. And then on the other side, we learn how to accept and receive. Yeah. Thank you. That was a nice additional comment. Okay, I would say then we end here. If anyone has other questions, we can also talk personally. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Krishna. And of course, tomorrow we continue with Anartha Nivritti, getting cleared from the obstacles, getting purified in the heart.